Hi, I'm Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and I'm so thrilled today to be joined by Baillie Walsh, who is the creative director of ABBA Voyage, the really, really incredible show. And I was so fascinated by what some of the early creative conversations were and how you've ended up conceptualizing this really remarkable mix of emotion, nostalgia, technology, something that really kind of like harkens us back to the past, but feels very present and futuristic at the same time, because they were looking for a director, and, you know, ABBA's producers, it sounds like, came to you, had a conversation. And then when you were talking to the producers, along with Benny and Björn, in those early conversations about what the show could be, because there wasn't a concrete idea yet of how to do it or what it was going to look like, you know, what were the initial discussions that led to the show being presented in the way that it has been on screen, with such an amalgamation of technology and nostalgia?
Well, it's a really difficult one. It's a slow process, really. It's, you know, that voyage of discovery and elimination, and, you know, kind of a series of small decisions, and, you know, it's an adventure. When I came on, Johan Rank had started the project, and because he had such an enormous success with Chernobyl, he wasn't able to do it because he had other opportunities that he wanted to explore, and he'd kind of set a roadmap. It was much more cinematic when I kind of came on, which was it was very, you know, it was great. But it was, you know, my feeling was that, you know, I wanted this to be an emotional journey, and I think everybody wanted it to be an emotional journey, and you know, and we felt that the idea of a live concert was kind of, you know, the way to go. And so, you know, we just kind of discussed with ILM and all of the tech people, you know, best way to go about it. And we started, you know, we went down that road. And I think that the, you know, the live concert with the live band, I mean, it, you know, I think it adds, you know, it's like you're at a live concert. It's a very emotional experience. So, yeah, it was a gradual process of, you know, just the way creative is. It's just, you know, it's a slow process of discoveries.
Yeah, you know, you're bringing up there Industrial Light and Magic, who are one of the partners in putting this together and producing this, particularly from the technological side. In terms of the technology, was it a case of trying to figure out what was possible technologically, and then figuring out how you were going to use that in a show, or conceptualizing ideas and then figuring out afterwards, you know, okay, this is the idea that we have, so now let's figure out how to make it possible with the technology?
Yeah, it was very much that way. Yeah, it was very much that way. So we did, it's kind of like, I never wanted to feel limited by, you know, technology. So it was always trying to push, you know, boundaries and coming up with ideas and saying, right, how are we going to achieve this? So it wasn't like, oh, what can we do? What are we able to do? It was very much the ideas-led project. So yeah, and I never doubted ILM's kind of, you know, that they couldn't do something. I was like, you know, it was really interesting, because I think they may have had some doubts at the beginning. But, you know, Ben Morris, who's the head creative at ILM, he really rose the challenge, and, you know, we figured it out. We figured it out along the way. So yeah, it was an ideas led, it wasn't tech led.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the things that's so striking about the show is it's not a case of, okay, you've got, you know, these avatar versions, the avatars that come out and perform, and that's the whole show. Every single musical number throughout the show has such a distinctive identity and visual presentation. And there's so many different stylistic techniques used on stage when it comes to the lighting, to the screens, to the holographic elements, the way that everything really immerses out into the audience. And so how did you kind of go through the set, you know, once you kind of finalized, okay, these are the songs that the band really want to have be part of the show, that everyone feels are the most important? What was that journey of going song by song and figuring out, okay, at this point, we're going to have some animation graphics up on screen, you know, this is going to be the avatars, this is going to be where we're really focusing on the lighting coming out into the stage, and what that individual visual presentation of each number was going to look like?
Yeah, I mean, that's the beautiful kind of moment of, you know, of like, okay, breaking it down. You've got the big ideas. We want it to be immersive. We want it to be a live concert. And so, you know, you've got those ideas, and then it's literally a case of, as you say, kind of breaking down the songs, but carrying a thread throughout, that there is, that it's not this kind of desperate, different ideas that don't kind of add up to a big concert. So always keeping that live concert in mind. But again, because this is, it is avatars, right? So we always thought that we have to be really generous here, because in a sense of, you don't have the real live ABBA there. So we thought that it always had to be a very generous show in the sense of lighting and lighting. I mean, the stage is, it's never an architectural kind of set. It's always everything is about light. So, and the idea of bringing the light into the arena and kind of, not knowing where the kind of digital ends and real begins, and vice versa. That was really important. And and then obviously there are, there were budgetary kind of, issues in the sense of, which actually helped in lots of ways, because, limitation sometimes is a really good, kind of great way to create. It's like, if you've got endless resources, sometimes that can kind of be your downfall. So there were kind of, there were budgetary restrictions on some, I mean, I know it's a vast budget, but you still have budgetary restrictions on something that's so expensive to create. And that kind of dictated how I would approach something sometimes, how I'd approach certain songs. And then it was literally just that joyful process of listening to the song, and what does that conjure up to me? What's the story? What is the visual to this? So that's, which I always love doing, whether that be for a video or for a film, or, it's always that beautiful process of close your eyes and dream.
Yeah. And you're talking there about the importance of the lighting, and there's so many different ways in which that comes into play. And the part of it I was really intrigued by is, the lighting and the avatars together, because, you really play with it, where if one band member has a solo moment in a song, that there's a spotlight on them. And so was there a lot of kind of recalibration of the avatars in line with making sure that you were having that lighting design that's really highlighting them at different moments in different ways in the performances as well? And how did that influence the construction of them?
Yeah, I mean, I was always, the idea was always never to let I never wanted the kind of it to go into pure darkness. We always wanted to give depth, that that beautiful thing when you see a live band and you see them moving around the stage in the semi-darkness. We always wanted that. So kept it, the whole thing alive, and the other avatars present the whole time. And then all of the lighting, that was decided, but that had to be designed, and all those lighting cues designed a long time ago. So ILM could work, knowing what that lighting was with the lighting. That was designed, I mean, I suppose, 2 years before we even, got to see it. I mean, lighting is, lighting, as I say, there was no stage set. Lighting was our set. So, lighting's crucial throughout the whole thing.
And with details like you're mentioning there of moments where, it's not that all of a sudden they disappear. If they move back on the stage, you can still kind of see them faintly in the background. And there's so many details that really bring through that through thread of it being the same as when you go to a live musical performance. You could have them in completely different costumes and outfits every single song, but you don't. It's still, maybe they're wearing the same outfit for a couple of songs, and then there's a costume change. There's the stage banter in between. How did you figure out a lot of the pacing and the rhythm? Because it plays so well to the audience, even when they're talking to the audience and there's kind of a joke made, there's the pause there. But obviously audiences respond in such different ways to the same show every single night. And so how did you figure out what the right pacing and rhythm of all those sorts of details were going to be to make it really have that immersive live feel?
Yeah, how do I figure it out? It's just, again, it's there's kind of never, it's such a kind of long process that you just, it's that thing of what would I want to see? What do I want to see? And again, it's that thing about emotion, and how can we get the best out of this emotionally? And so, yeah, it's just it's just that process of imagination, of imagining. And, the pace, obviously, the kind of set list kind of dictated a certain pace, which, so that was great. It was kind of, and it was great that ABBA, there was always going to be ABBA's set list. It was always going to be their decision about what songs and what order. And obviously there was lots of discussions about that. But at the end of the day, that was ABBA's set list. So that was a great kind of roadmap for me. That was wonderful, because it was like, okay, this is it. This is what I've got to work with. So obviously those songs, the way that they paced that set list, kind of, that was dictating to me. So where you have the breaks and where you have the kind of the chat between, and that was again, we knew that we wanted them to talk because they're so involved in this, and the heart and soul of those avatars are ABBA, because they're there, they're talking, it's their speeches, it's their thoughts. So yeah, that just we knew where we thought the speeches should be, and then gradually as we worked, and then as we filmed them, when we filmed them for 5 weeks in Sweden, it just became more and more apparent what was going to work. So,
yeah. And even their involvement as well. It's the fact that when you're watching this performance, that it's motion captured from them. It's the performance that they wanted. And so what was that collaboration and working with the band and with Wayne McGregor on a lot of what the choreography of the show was going to look like? Because it was the band coming in and doing motion capture and doing choreography with him and with you, but then also having doubles kind of like step in where they needed to have a little bit more movement and motion to kind of capture back to that particular time.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really joyful experience. The whole 5 weeks was amazing. And working with Wayne was such a treat. He's amazing and brilliant, and it was a real treat. On the filming of the band, it was much more, in the sense that Wayne didn't actually choreograph them. We gave, I'd give Wayne an idea of what the song was, what the mise en scene was, right? What the idea was, and then and we talk. It's like, do we want them to be still? Do we want lots of movement? So each song had a different kind of treatment, and Wayne would talk to to ABBA, and and we'd both talk and say what that was, and let them do the interpretation almost. So, and then Wayne would use their interpretation and then extend that into the doubles who were rehearsing and working on becoming ABBA in the studio next door. So that was great, because there was this kind of, working at the same time was wonderful. So Wayne would use, and I think that's a really clever thing that Wayne did was that, it's not over choreographed. It doesn't feel, it's not a Madonna concert here. Do you know what I mean? It feels very natural and very like, spontaneous. And I think that's very ABBA. And so Wayne, like I say, he extended all of those moves from the ABBAs, from their natural movement, from the stories that we were telling and what we asked them. We told them what the scenes were. He let them do their own movement almost. And then, like I say, extended it into the doubles.
Right. And with that idea as well of elements that are just so intrinsic with who they are as a band, there's so many things that are just so familiar in watching it, even the fact they're so synonymous with the idea of kind of like two faces side by side, like singing towards each other on screen. What were the most important details and beats from music videos and performances that they'd given, when they first launched their career and were first releasing this music, that were really important to bring to stage visually and to tap into in that way? Because the moment that you do anything like that on screen, it just immediately connects with the audience in a very particular way.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously their videos were so kind of, they were so unique, and the Lasse Hallström kind of visual language that he created with ABBA is so important. So I think it was very, very important for me to reference that and to use that, like you say, to kind of trigger memories and to trigger memories of videos that they've done, and so wherever I could. I mean, I didn't want to kind of just use it all the way through, but wherever I could, especially in those kind of more cinematic moments, you know, we'd use that and reference it and try and kind of, yeah, it seemed absolutely the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And were there interesting challenges that came with the construction of their costumes? Because obviously they're so known for having such intricately detailed costumes, and you're now creating that in a visual medium that requires a lot of layering within the visual technology. And so were there any challenges that came with bringing that side of the show and the visual elements to screen into life?
Yeah, I mean, Björn did she designed the costumes with other designers. And, you know, I think she did a great job in the sense of, you know, it was always about bringing ABBA into present day rather than just kind of reproducing a concert that was the Wembley concert in 1979. So that we wanted their costumes to be obviously a look back, but very present, very modern and wearable now. So I think that she did an amazing job on that. In the sense of ILM's, how they kind of worked with those costumes that we had physically made. We obviously filmed them and broke them down, and then they literally recreated thread by thread and sequin by sequin. They recreated those with an amazing, with amazing brilliance, and the end effect I think is wonderful. I mean, all of those sequins, all of the rhinestones and all of those opening costumes. I mean, throughout actually. I mean, I just think they're so three-dimensional, and the way they move, and and we are obviously, like I say, we filmed all of that, as a reference for them to work with. But yeah, it was a really big challenge for ILM, I think. Massive challenge.
Yeah, and again, there's all these very kind of future forward, technologically, incredible visual moments in the show, but then you also allow yourself to visually use footage from their music videos, from performances. One of the really great moments is taking everyone back to their performance at Eurovision and using that footage, and that's a real nostalgia point. How did you kind of figure out where that really fit into the show, and was it something that from the beginning, even as you were conceptualizing these avatars and what the show was going to look like, that it was still always important to have some of that original footage as well for the audience?
It was, it again, when did we realize? I don't know, it just felt like, it just felt like the right thing to do. And actually, Ludwig, what happened was that we decided that we were going to, we wanted Waterloo to be the one, right? And we were going to, because Eurovision was such a kind of key moment in their career at the beginning of it all. And I felt that Ludwig was the right person to edit this piece, right? And so I kind of handed over Waterloo to Ludwig, and Ludwig came up with the idea of that it was going to be a Eurovision piece. Ludwig came up with the idea of using all of the different television appearances that they did for Waterloo, and it just it seemed right. And I think that he did with his editor just a wonderful job. It's very it's great fun. It's very emotional. It reminds everyone of where ABBA came from. It was great.
Yeah, I also wanted to talk a little bit about the venue itself, because the venue was also constructed specifically for the show and with the way the show is being presented. And there's so many striking elements when you're in that arena, from like, there's just such darkness that you're plunged into. So it really pulls you straight into the stage. No one's using their phones to even try and take pictures because you're just fully immersed in the moment. You can tell that no matter where you sit, you've got an amazing view of everything that's happening. And even just the number of visual elements like lighting and screens that come out into the audience as well, and kind of are right above your head at various moments. Kind of what was that journey of the element, realizing the elements that you needed to construct into the venue and that were really going to enhance everything that you were working on creating on stage?
Well, the venue was kind of had been designed before I came on board, and the stage and around the stage, that was the only thing in a sense that I was involved with. What I think works really, really well within the arena is the scale of it and the intimacy of it. So, and the fact that it's kind of, in the, in an amphitheater kind of shape. So you can see, it's small enough that you can see every face, right? You can see every face in that arena. And I think that that's a really great thing, because it basically, that when there's excitement, the excitement spreads, because you can feel it and you can see it. Right? At a venue like, say, the O2, it's basically, you don't know what's going on at the back, right? So all of those thousands of people behind you may be going crazy, but you never feel it here. So I think that there's a really beautiful thing about the arena, which is, like I say, the intimacy of it, and that you are in this properly communal experience. And that is, and that's Stewfish's brilliance, that's their brilliance of the design of that building. And the other thing is that, it's a beautiful thing that the ability to be able to design a building that's bespoke. So the experience starts as soon as you arrive, basically. You arrive at this kind of, this kind of spaceship. So already the excitement is there. And then you go through, into the kind of common areas that, where you can get drinks and food, all of which is really kind of works really, really well. And the flow is amazing. So, yeah, I think that the building is a big, massive part of the success of this, a really big part of the success of this.
And it's also such an accomplishment in terms of, yes, you've got all of this technology and certain things that are meticulously planned out, but there's also live elements to the show as well, in terms of musicians and singers that are kind of playing alongside the recorded elements. How do you kind of create that space and find that middle ground where the recorded elements and the live elements really come together and meet in that place in the middle?
Again, it's that whole thing of, I think the live band is so important in the whole thing. And they're brilliant. We love them. But it's that thing of what's real and what's not real. In the same way that the lighting kind of we don't know where the lighting is real and where it's where it's digital. So it's that we were playing with that whole idea of the mix of throughout the whole thing. And the voices, obviously, we've got the voices from the new songs, so they're recent. But then on the we're using the old ABBA's voices with the live band and the backing singers. So all of that is mixing, and then it's again it's that whole kind of the mix, which is so important.
And obviously with live shows, there's kind of, you get to see how the audience are responding to certain things. And, if this was the band on stage every night, there's little elements that they would probably tweak and adjust. And, with a show like this, it has to be meticulously detailed. And there's a lot of things that you can't change. You can't suddenly say, actually, I think tonight we'll play this song here in the set list instead. But have there been elements and kind of minute details since the show opened that you've kind of gone, okay, maybe we're going to tweak this up just a little bit, or we'll move this just a tiny bit, or what have those details been?
Absolutely. It does, I'm still working on it. So there are kind of small changes as we go along. As you say, we can't make big changes at this point. Obviously we could add songs. That's a possibility. But right now, with the show as it is, we are making, tiny adjustments, timing adjustments between songs, and a few, and obviously all of the sound mix was, Benny was here working on that for a long time, so that sound mix is pretty set. But they're live musicians, so things do change. But yeah, there are each show is slightly different. I notice the differences. I'm not sure that the audience would, but they, all those details, the show is made up of details, right? And all of those details add up to the whole, and they're really, really important. So yeah, I'm constantly, fiddling. I'm still fiddling now.
Well, it genuinely is kind of just one of the most astounding and mesmerizing events and experiences that I've been to in recent times, or even that I can think of. And I can't wait to go see it again already, because you just sit there trying to figure out how you've constructed it and put it all together. So thank you so much for answering all my questions and talking about it.
Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. I'm really happy to hear that you enjoyed it. It's great news. Thank you.